From the shadows of the National Palace
to the muddy trenches of politics. This is the Pigsty, the pig pen of politics with Camerano.
Welcome to the Pigsty, the pig pen of politics. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable, but watch your step, because here the filth is already up to our necks. This is your untrustworthy host, Camerano, broadcasting from the foulest corner of national politics, where the stench of corruption and transformation is practically the same. Today we have a feast of cynicism, the kind the lady in the palace enjoys. Grab your coffee or your tequila if you can't handle reality anymore, because what happened yesterday is beyond words. Well, it does have a name, but the regime's hucksters prefer to invent euphemisms so they don't have to admit it's falling apart on them. We also started with the theater and the train. Yesterday, a piece of news made the headlines of every newscast in the country. We would have liked it to be an April Fool's joke, but it wasn't. Did reality slap the fourth transformation in the face again? The Interoceanic train derailed in Oaxaca, leaving 13 people dead. So far, and proving what many of us have pointed out for a long time, the mega projects of the so-called fourth transformation are being built in a rush, with a lack of transparency and supervision. Questionable, and there's corruption. And look at the little gem we found among the rubble just for a change. And to no one's surprise, one of the former president's sons was involved in the supervision. Gonzalo Lopez Beltran, better known in the underworld of influence peddling as Bobby. The wellness train derailed again, not only off the tracks, but also straying from the official narrative, which now invents stories to hide the truth. But calm down, because when someone dares to criticize, when someone has the audacity to point out that machines don't keep their word and that corruption kills, the chorus of clapping seals always comes out. Don't criticize Andrés Manuel's sons, they're not in politics. Oh really? They're not? Then explain it to me, for crying out loud. Why do they show up in public projects? What are they doing in poorly done works? Why do their names appear in shady contracts and failed inspections? The most amazing thing is that without being in politics, they get rich and buy luxury brands neither you nor I could afford in 3 lifetimes. If they're not in politics, why are they involved in power? And if they're in power, why can't they be held accountable? Please, we're too old for stupid stories in the pigsty. Let's remember that's why we're here in 2022. El Jumento Macuspano confirmed the government and Navy would operate the project. 2 years later, he casually revealed to us that his son Gonzalo Bobby Lopez was supervising the project, but of course, without charging a single cent, according to this bastard. What efficiency, what patriotic nepotism. But things get even better. Pedro Salazar Beltran, cousin of Gonzalo Lopez Beltran, Bobby, friend of Amilcar Olan, was a ballast supplier. Yes, that material that's supposed to support the tracks, but apparently is better at supporting bank accounts. And I'm not saying this just because I don't like them. Phone calls expose a multi-million-dollar ballast business among friends, lacking official records. The outcome of pretending to be builders with others' money is obvious. It ended in a fatal derailment for the Cheros, who swear up and down that Bobby Lopez has absolutely nothing to do with the Interoceanic train, that he wasn't supervising the project. What do you think? There's video, and here it is.
But Gonzalo he's not involved in the political issue. Gonzalo has helped as an honorary member in Interoceanic. But no, he doesn't get paid and he won't work in the government. When he told me that, I felt really happy. He's going to take over the chocolate factory that he owns in partnership with Andres, and he's going to be in charge. And I got really happy. Because, right? Huh? Poor things, the kids don't take it out on them. And they have to suffer not because of what the parents do. We dedicate ourselves to these noble professions.
In another video, which I won't show to avoid upsetting you more, you clearly hear, Bobby got me into this mess and said they're giving us some mines in Oaxaca. That's how Emil Carolyn spoke, a close friend of Bobby Lopez Beltran and his cousins, who manages million-dollar contracts for these jerks. It's that simple. That's how cynically and with impunity they secured contracts. While they divide up the mines and the kickbacks for every 3,000 cubic meters, the good people are the ones who end up dead. Defenders of the regime say accidents happen, but the derailment of the Interoceanic train is not the first railway incident. As they say, it's like trying to cover the sun with a finger. In this administration, don't pretend these are unforeseen events. They're patterns in how you build infrastructure. Rushed inauguration for a photo op, highlighting the fourth transformation, using subpar materials and politically motivated contracts. If the accidents keep happening over and over, they're not coincidences. They're bad decisions made by those in power. And that's what pisses you off about living in a country where no one takes responsibility for those decisions. The point is very simple. Political and administrative responsibility exists from the moment a project fails. Even if the technical investigation is still ongoing, the investigation will say how it happened. The responsibility already shows whose project it was, who decided, supervised, and called it historic. Comparing it to accidents from decades ago doesn't excuse a government that promised change. If the standard is that it happened before too, there's no moral superiority or change. They just change the flies, but the filth remains. Just because something is new in quotes doesn't make it immune to criticism. On the contrary, new things are evaluated more rigorously, not with more excuses. Handling the emergency is the minimum. Explaining the failure is necessary. Look at the difference. Airplanes are usually owned by private companies. When an accident happens, the company is held accountable, faces lawsuits, fines, audits, and even bankruptcy. Here we're talking about a public project paid for with our taxes, planned, executed, and supervised by the state. That's why the demand for accountability is greater. Questioning isn't scavenging, despite what these fools applauding the fourth transformation claim. Scavenging, using tragedies for propaganda, demanding silence to protect those in power. The federal government and its followers give yet another display of human misery. They choose to call the train derailment a railway event and omit mentioning the number of injured, which is over 90, and the fatalities, which so far number 13. But of course, they call us vultures for pointing out and warning that something like this would happen sooner or later because of corruption. Here we don't talk about gossip. We talk about failing infrastructure, public money being misused, and a protected last name. Austerity for the people, indulgence for the family. They pitched the project as historic, modern, and exemplary, but now we see derailed train cars and broken promises. But don't worry, because the blame lies with Calderon's past, the Spaniards, the weather, or the conservative neoliberals whose ghosts sabotage the tracks with their minds. Of course, Scheinbaum won't do anything against Bobby for the negligence in supervising the Interoceanic train, just like she didn't do anything against Andy for the cheap materials used in the Maya train. What can we expect? Should Claudia start her own club of collapsed structures? Claudia Scheinbaum? A school collapsed while she was Tlalpan mayor, and the subway collapsed during her time as Mexico City's head of government, and the trains derail under her watch. Now that she's president, it's something you could see coming. It's her trademark. Tragedy with style in the fourth transformation. First the tragedies happen, and then comes the silence. The only untouchable thing is the family circle of power. But the damage, the omissions, and the irresponsible decisions don't go away. Let's hope that one day, no matter how distant, they'll have to face justice. Andrés Manuel López Obrador is, without a doubt, directly and indirectly responsible for the tragedy we are experiencing in every way. He is the swindler who, with all his wickedness, made millions believe he was just a simple political activist who abhorred corruption, money, and the abuse of power. Today it is absolutely clear to us that he was and continues to be the most shameless, vulgar, lying, and corrupt president in history. His sons were the first to benefit from his dirty dealings. Parasites who live like millionaires without ever having worked a day in their filthy lives, and who have never shown where all the money they squander comes from. That's right, there are thousands, if not millions of Mexicans who are pissed off by his hypocrisy, pissed off by his inconsistency, pissed off by his lowliness, and pissed off by the stupidity of everyone who believed him, because they brought him to power to destroy Mexico and to make his children and close associates millionaires. And that was obvious. Fourth transformation propagandists can't even name things honestly. It's not a mishap, incident, or event. Call it what it is, jerks. And worst of all, they act like they're the victims. They say we're attacking them, that it's a miserable conspiracy. Understand that the victims are not the government, nor Scheinbaum, nor Lopez Obrador, nor their children. The victims are the 13 dead, 98 injured, and their grieving families, all suffering due to negligence, corruption, and ambition. Questioning those in power doesn't make us vultures or scavengers, as these bastards like to say. The real vultures and scavengers are those who got rich in 7 years with rushed, grandiose projects. Without transparency and without accountability, demanding those responsible is a civic duty, not political scavenging. I deeply regret the death of 13 Mexicans in the derailment of the failed Interoceanic train. I hope it is clear once again that voting for these bastards, just for a welfare scholarship, only feeds corruption, which undoubtedly has deadly consequences for the good and wise people. Sadly, those responsible will face no consequences and continue working comfortably in the National Palace. For 7 years, the country has been derailing, driven by the same corruption and filth known as the Fourth Transformation. Not criticizing the children of those in power is expected, even if things go off the rails. Goodbye, remember me, dear piggies. It's not courage, it's coherence. It's not an attack, it's memory. It's not gossip, it's the pure and disgusting reality. I'll let you think about that. I'm leaving before I get splashed with more mud. From this fourth-rate transformation, see you in the next episode of Governmental Cynicism. Your friend Che Morano says goodbye from La Pasilga, the pigsty of politics, but with my head held high. Goodbye.
This is La Posilga, the pigsty of politics with Che Morano.